Do you know it was Tanya's birthday? Yeah. Aren't those good?
It's nothing but cakes, yeah.
Recording in progress.
We're ready? Okay. Welcome, everyone. This is the City Council meeting for the City of Fairway, Kansas. It is Monday, December 12th, 2022, and it is 6:34 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order. I have no announcements, but Nathan has a few.
I do. Thank you.
What was
Okay.
that?
The first one is you'll see over here on the wall, we had a Fairway resident named Mike Turner who does woodworking as a hobby. He called the other day and asked if he could donate those to the city, one for us here at City Hall and one for the police department. And I believe he's a Ward 4 resident. I don't know. But we said, sure, we'd love to have him, and he was up here within a couple hours and dropped those off. So those were all done by a Fairway resident, and I believe the one on the far end from us is the one that's going to the PD. So he didn't even want to sign the back of them, but we made him sign the back of them and put the date down there so we could remember where they came from. My other announcement would be the Shawnee Mission Foundation finished up their annual sale of trees and greenery. There's some of the live greenery on the dais here this evening. And then just outside my office is a box of wreaths that they had left over. So the city purchased a box of wreaths. So any one of you up here who would like to grab one on your way out, it's right outside my office, and they're pretty. They're good-looking wreaths. Lastly, and I took these upstairs but couldn't get to them, in the next newsletter coming out in January, we are revamping our no solicitor program. So we have a no visit list if you don't want to have people visiting you who have acquired a solicitor's permit through the city. You can get on a no visit list, and that list gets handed to the solicitors and saying you can't go there. We're also going to be, and you can grab one and pass them along, handing these out here at City Hall for anyone who wants them. These are stickers for your front door that say no soliciting. And it's got the Fairway logo on it, and it also cites the city code on there, and then as well as the phone number, so that if someone comes to your door and they knock on it and they're soliciting, you've got our number right here, and it actually goes to dispatch, so they can immediately send out a police officer, because we get some complaints that people have been on this no visit list and they still get solicitors that come to their door. So now the number to call is right on the sticker that you can put on your door. So,
Nathan, if I'm ready to properly as a resident display this, they're supposed to first be on the list at City Hall, and then they put this up.
Yeah, so what I believe what the article is stating is that you can come to City Hall, we'll put you on the new list, and we'll give you one of these while you're here. So hopefully this will help folks avoid solicitors if they don't want to have them at their house.
This is the prettiest no solicit tag I've ever seen.
Yeah, yeah. Abby did this, so this is all credit to Abby. And those are my announcements, Mayor.
Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First up is the monthly reports of the standing committees. The Consolidated Fire District Number 2, Chief Chick, is not with us this evening, so we will allow his report to stand as submitted. Admin and Finance, Nathan?
We did not meet in November. We did just meet this evening. So I'll let the report stand, and happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Nathan? No? Okay. Police, Chief?
Thanks. I'd like to go over a little bit of the information in my report, if that's okay, because we have been busy.
Yes.
I mean, I say that every council meeting, but
You have been.
we've been busy.
That's fine. Go ahead.
You can see the level of activity from last November compared to this November has dramatically increased. But some of the things I want to highlight is and assist the outside agency, which is on that first page of the report. And one of our officers assisted Westwood PD with an armed disturbance. Someone pulled a gun out on, or a couple individuals, 3 actually, pulled a firearm on another individual at a store. Our officer went there, located the suspect vehicle, engaged that vehicle in a short pursuit, apprehended 2 of the suspects after the pursuit ended with a non-injury crash bordering our city off of Row, and the other individual that actually brandished the firearm ran. So our officer did a great job locating those 2 suspects. But then later, after that scene was under control and secured, our officer went out and then located that other individual in our city. He did an outstanding job there. I just wanted to mention that. You can see the types of narcotics that we've been getting off of the street. It's, again, like I mentioned before in prior meetings, heroin, methamphetamine, cocaine, as well as marijuana. We also located a missing endangered person out of Lenexa, and that person was taken into custody and rendered safe by our officers and given medical attention, which I think is mentionable as well. People have been running from us as usual. That's nothing new anymore. And then the last thing there's 2 other things I want to talk about. And I'll just jump to the PV Post article. There was a PV Post article in reference to accidents. I want to mention that really quick. It was kind of asking a question like, what's the problem around the Fairway shops? Well, we don't really think there is a problem around the Fairway shops. I have a theory on that, and I'll go ahead and explain it to the council right now. Every day there is a high level of emergency equipment that runs through Shawnee Mission Parkway and Bolinder to Shawnee Mission Med Center. There was always at least 2 to 3 calls typically during the day where there's fire apparatus parked on the street right at the just past the intersection on Bolinder. And I believe that contributes, when fire and MEDAC are running lights and sirens into this area where the shops are, I think people would generally think that that's probably a motor vehicle accident, not an ambulance or fire truck running hot to a hospital. So I think that contributed to it. That is my theory, but I think that might be where it's coming from. The last thing I want to mention is something that I'd like to carry over into the next council meeting as well, and that is there was a traffic stop that our officers initiated off of Shawnee Mission Parkway. An individual in that vehicle was armed. There were also 2 other people in that car. Our officers, using very good officer safety and tactics, asked that individual to step out. When he stepped out of the vehicle, they noticed that he did in fact have a handgun in his waistband. He went for that handgun, and our officers took him into custody without incident. That was split seconds away from being an awful situation. So we're very fortunate that our officers acted very, very professionally, and they kept everyone safe at that stop. So that being said, next council meeting, I'd like to recognize them for that. And that's all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Chief, thank you for that report. And yes, and the officer was?
Well, that's another just strange phenomenon that happened within the city of Fairway, because we actually had 4 officers on, which is somewhat unusual during that time of night. But I'm very happy that scheduling worked out. Officer Rubio, Officer Skimper, Officer Metz, and Officer Oswald were all there. Officer Rubio was the one that actually got the individual out of the car and then went hands-on with that individual and got control of him and put him on the ground to where he couldn't access that gun and pull it out.
Great. Yes. Please invite them to our meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for that report. Highlighting those items, I think, was a good idea. and I'm glad you did that this evening, because our world is changing. The report didn't used to read that way. So yes, things have changed.
I know, I feel like I say, oh, we're busy. I say we're busy a lot. And, you know, I think I need to start highlighting some of that a little bit more.
I would agree.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions for the chief?
I guess with the rise of fentanyl.
Jason, is your mic on?
Ward 1, Jason Rogers, Councilman. Chief, with the rise in fentanyl that's kind of happening, seems like all over the country, I don't even know if the state of Kansas, do we have any Narcan kits, or is that something that?
Yes, we have, our medic units have that.
Okay.
We've been trained on all that. Some of the officers do have Narcan with them. We've made arrangements to actually bring more into the city and have it throughout. Even we're working on getting it here and at the pool. We've started contacting the appropriate agencies to get that expanded.
Cool, awesome.
But that is here.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean to scare anybody, but those fentanyl cases are here.
Yeah, no, I mean, I see it.
Okay.
You know, nationally, locally, I mean, there's plenty of kids that, I think there's been some kids at East that,
Right.
quite frankly, have died because they took something that
They shouldn't have.
they didn't know, and it happened, and it's
Right.
happening with, you know, not just high school age kids, but junior high kids. So that's awesome that you guys are
Right.
ahead of that.
And please educate yourselves as well on
Yeah.
that.
Any other questions for the chief?
I had a question.
Jenna?
Yeah, first of all, Chief, that seems like a really scary situation for your team, so thank you guys. The situation you talked about. I just wanted to know kind of what's the nature of that stop and what's the what's the protocol for that situation?
Well, it was just a traffic stop.
Like red light.
It was a traffic violation. And then they observed another violation within the vehicle when they approached it. And then communication between the individuals in the car and the officers, and then the officer recognizing that individual was trying to conceal something within his waistband, and that's why he asked him to step out of the vehicle, because he was concerned. And
Do we ask, because I have no idea, do we ask folks if they're armed when we stop them?
you know, that varies. That's an approach an officer can take. You know, do you have any guns, knives, needles on you, or anything like that would hurt me, or anything, something to that effect? But each officer has his own approach to cars like that, or to traffic stops. Excuse me, not cars, but traffic stops, or dealing with any individual. But I can tell you that the appropriate patrol tactic now is to assume that everyone is armed when we're talking to them.
Okay, thank you.
Not that they're not armed.
Any other questions for the chief? All right, thank you. Public Works, Bill?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll let my report stand as submitted. A couple things I'd like to highlight is, for all intents and purposes, the 2022 capital improvement plan is done. If you'll notice, there is a crosswalk at the Creamery. However, there is no push button to help you get across the street. But it's marked. The approach ramps are there. We're just waiting on, like a lot of things in the world, the parts to get here. It was 8 weeks out from when it was approved by the engineers, which puts it at the end of December, first part of January, and they'll come in and place that at that time. The other thing I would like to mention is we are actively street sweeping, even though it may not look like we are. It's been out almost every day. We had one lull in between passes through the city, and that was when we were spending time taking leaves off the properties and park to get those out of the way of all the neighbors. They finished up a pass today and started over in Ward 2, so they're out there. The other thing I'd like to highlight is we met in November as a Public Works Committee, and there's a memo in my packet as part of my report about the Alhambra corridor study. The big thing I'd like to point out is that speed was not an issue, however, sight lines were. So the police department's going to be taking the lead on getting those site obstructions cleared up, and then the guidance was to monitor it over the next year and see if there's any other things we need to implement that we feel would help improve the safety. But the biggest takeaway from it is speed was not an issue, which was very glad to hear that that is not a contributing factor. Other than that, I will be happy to answer any questions. One other thing, we spent a lot of time in November tidying up our accreditation because our reaccreditation visit started today, and the lead supervisor that is re-inspecting us name is Tom Brady, and much like his namesake in New England, he is not being very friendly to Kansas City. So.
Any questions for Bill? Okay, thank you, Bill. Parks and Rec, Bryce?
Yep. Any questions about my report, I'm happy to answer. I'll just note that the Santa workshop is happening this Thursday and Friday and then Monday. So if you guys have some time and you want to stop by the pool house during this week, Jackson and Vicky are hard working on that, and they're about done with all the decorations inside. Hopefully the weather cooperates outside so we can get our decorations up out there. But again, they're working their magic, and it looks wonderful.
Any questions for Bryce? Jenna?
Yeah, I had a question about the winterizing at the park that was in there. Does that mean the water fountain gets winterized?
Correct.
So no water fountain during the winter?
Right.
Is that something in the future we can think about having an option for water during the wintertime at the park?
If we can do so without pipes freezing, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Bryce? All right, thank you, Bryce. Next is monthly reports of special committees. The tree board. Is that Bill?
No report. I know Rick is trying to get, we'll be sending out a save the date for first quarter of 2023 to get the next meeting scheduled.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right. Nathan, do we have anyone in the audience for public comment this evening?
We do have one. If there's anybody who's on Zoom who'd like to make a public comment, use the raise your hand feature now.
All right, our public comment section is open for the consent agenda items only, and I would like to read those into the record. The consent agenda consists of A, approved minutes of the previous regular city council meeting, B, approved claims and appropriations, ordinance number 1775 for November 2022. C, approve the 2023 holiday schedule. D, approve agreement with Pitney Bowes for the postage machine at City Hall. And E, approve the cereal malt beverage license for Hen House. Is there anyone in the public that would like to consent on any of those agenda items? Nathan, anyone raising their hand? All right, I'll close this section of the public comment, and we will open it to the governing body. These items are determined to be routine enough to be acted on in a single motion. However, this does not preclude discussion. If a council member requests, an item may be removed from the consent agenda for further consideration and separate motion. Does anyone wish to remove one of the items to be considered separately? All right, seeing
Just
none.
had a quick
Yes.
question, not to remove anything, but is the cereal malt beverage license a renewal? Okay.
All right, anything else? All right, I'll entertain a motion for the consent agenda items.
I move to approve consent agenda items A through E.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the items on the consent agenda, A through E. All those in favor, aye. Aye. No? Passes unanimously. Moving on to new business. Item A, consider Resolution 2022F, a resolution establishing the 2023 fee schedule. Nathan?
Thank you, Mayor. This is our annual practice every December to approve the fee schedule for the following year. On the schedule itself, under Exhibit A, everything that's highlighted in yellow are changes from the previous year. You'll see the record search fee per hour is increasing. And then the other items are related to Park and Rec, and I'll let Bryce touch on those.
So the fees for our membership have changed to an individual instead of a family. The reason being for that is probably the staff time that takes up my time to establish who is in the family. If they are a family member, do they meet our criteria? And right now our criteria only allows for 2 adult members in a membership. Otherwise you have to add on your other individual membership, which is upwards of $100 beforehand. So right now we're seeing a lot more families that are not traditional families with either parents living with their children, adult children, or their adult children living with their parents. We have 3 generations, sometimes 4 in one family, and additionally other family structures as well that I have to make a phone call or send an email and confirm with them that they are a family that meets our regulations under the membership guideline. I'm not sure that in 2022 the practice of defining a family is within my department's scope and doesn't necessarily need to be there. Prairie Village went through the same situation about 4 years ago. They went from family to individual memberships, and it has made it much more clean, and staff time has been lessened because of that. Now the residency and non-residency is the only thing that is in question, and that's much more easy to prove with a simple driver's license or a utility bill. So that's the direction that we were going. What I based my fees off of was I took the average family size for the Fairway membership in the past, and also the non-resident as well. And I divided those, our current fee, so $155 divided by, I think 3.86 was the number for an average Fairway family. And that came to just under $40. And then for the memberships that had a sitter, I did the same thing, and it came to like 40.1 was the average fee. So we settled on the $40 per person, everybody 3 and up for that. The non-residents was a little bit more diverse with having a higher membership or a higher family. I think it was about a little over 4. And so the fees the average came out between a non-resident family being around 60 to 65, I believe. And then with a sitter, it was closer to over 70. So we average that to right at 70 for the non-resident fee. The super pass will stay the same, although we have increased the fees there. The committee of the whole of the super pass cities, we haven't updated those fees at least since I've been here. So we've updated those by $10 per family, and then $5 for individuals, and then so those will stay the same there. But on the Fairway membership side, it will be individual only. Any questions on that?
All right, any questions on or any discussion on the 2023 fee schedule? Dan?
Okay, so I understand the Super Pass allows you any pool within those organizations at any time,
If they're open and they're not closed due to a swim team.
including Fairway. So
Right.
somebody from Prairie Village can buy a family pass for $70?
No, it's an individual only. There's no family. I'm sorry. For a super pass, so the Prairie Village, your scenario there, they would have to purchase it through their city. So they'd have to go get the Prairie Village membership first, and then tack on the super pass after that. They could only buy that through their home city. Now, non-resident from Brookside, they could buy their super pass or their membership wherever they wanted to, but they would only be eligible for the super pass membership in the second year of.
On that, what was the family non-resident was like 280, 275 last year? Is that right?
It would have gone from either 270 or 370. So 270 would have been a family, then a 370 would be with a sitter.
And what's the non-resident day pass rate right now?
Currently, it is at $8 per hour. We're moving to $8 per hour, $8 per person above 2 years old. We're going to be moving to $9 per non-resident, 3 and up. the Fairway resident rate has not changed.
Perfect, thanks.
Motion?
Please.
Move that we pass Resolution 2022F, establishing the 2023 fee schedule.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the Resolution 2022F. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Passes unanimously. Item B on new business. Consider increase in Casey Gunite. Thank you. Contract for Fairway pool repairs due to unforeseen circumstances related to removal of the pool liner. Bryce?
Me again. So we knew that this project was going to be basically like an onion. We were going to peel back the layers, and hopefully we found something that was good. So far, and I would say that we have found evidence of good, that the concrete underneath has not been compromised enough so where we would have to replace concrete. Now, there has been layer upon layer of liner found, and whether, we kind of spoke with in the finance admin meeting that some of those layers were installed with different items that you shouldn't use underwater, and that are proving to be basically cemented down to the cement. So Casey Gunite has gone through and rented several different machines that have never been used for this application before, because there's not really any other pools that have a liner like ours and that's been there for so long, and the replacements that's been put on top of it. So they're trying to figure it out on the fly, how they can get through all of these layers. All of these conditions were unknown because we did have water in the pool when they came out to give us our estimate, which we were required to do so with the water based upon our agreement with Mid-America Pool on the warranty. So we couldn't take the water out and let them cut through the liner to void our warranty if we weren't 100% sure that we wanted to go forward with the all-concrete pool that we do. So I've kind of broken it down, and they've obviously broken it down, the pricing for us, and what we're going through here. There was a caulking joint that we didn't know that was there on the floor to wall joints that were covered up by the liner that weren't exposed, and the liner should have gone to the caulking joint, and it wasn't. It was just put over it. So that could have been a place where possible water could have gotten under and deteriorated a little bit. But they're also going to. We found that the caulking on the ribbon on the deck is allowing water to get behind the concrete and behind the gutters and get behind the concrete, and potentially could be deteriorating the concrete on the outside much quicker than it should. So they wanted to shore up that caulking on the outside, because it essentially it's the stopgap for everything else that we're kind of doing here. There's also on our stainless steel gutters, there's spots where they've cracked on the joints, on the welded joints, where that need to be shored up as well. It all comes back to the amount of pressure that's in the system, and if it's actually turning over the water as it should, to be able to make to balance the water chemically and make sure it's safe for everybody. But it also puts the pressure is higher than it should be, it places more. It's more hard on our equipment, our pumps, our filters, everything else. So we have a small little geyser in one of our joints that we have to, that we made not a geyser during the pool season, but it's there. So yeah, there's all these things that we knew we might find some things. We didn't know this was going to be it. But again, all things considering, right now there doesn't have to be any concrete that is broken out and poured back in.
I would just add a couple things. Bryce has gotten to learn a whole lot through this process. We got to go down and dig deep into the history boxes. The pool was completely rebuilt in the late 80s, and that's at the time when the stainless steel gutters were added. However, they were not properly installed at that time, and so then in the early 90s, they were essentially reworked. And it was in the early 90s is when they were welded together on site, which was also a unique find. That's typically not how it's done. There would be joints, but it was as if these were sort of built on site. So now they work, they do a good job. And so in talking with Casey Gunite, they proposed a number of things, chiefly being to fix the welds, which have cracked, again, likely probably because of the pressure. You've also got to remember it's a pool, so it's very, it's a pretty corrosive environment when it comes to long-term years of exposure on that kind of stuff. So, but I think, as Bryce said, overall, we're in good shape. We didn't, and I mentioned this in the Administration and Finance Committee meeting, we were prepared to substantially push back on Casey Gunite on some of these items. However, in speaking with one of the attorneys at Stinson who helped with the contract, they basically, I don't know how I should say this, walked us back. We're confident that this is an appropriate ask given the unknowns of the pool, and we also have reasonable confidence that all of the surprises should have been found by now. So hopefully we don't come back to you again with any more issues, and we will, if approved, we'll let them know tomorrow. They're waiting to find out how this meeting goes, and they're ready to get the rest of the liner removed. And some of the stuff they'll continue to do over the course of the winter, but I think we're at the point now where painting is going to probably wait until the spring, and hopefully we get some warm days in February. And then the caulking is what will be the next step on the deck. And I know it looks like we're getting ready to go into a real cold patch, so I don't know how that's going to affect timing. But what is I say all that to say that timing is of the essence on this if we want to try and make sure that we're able to be open by Memorial Day.
Okay, council, any questions for staff? Any discussion among ourselves? All right, then I will open this for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to discuss these increases in pool repairs? All right, seeing none, we will close that portion of the public comment, and I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve item B on new business, which is an increase in the Casey Gunite contract amount relating to the Fairway pool repairs due to unforeseen circumstances related to the removal of the pool liner.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve these increases to the removal of the pool liner and the repair of the pool items. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is the governing body comment section. During this time, members of the governing body will be given the opportunity to speak about matters related to the city. No formal action will be taken during this time. Does anyone have a comment that they'd like to make?
I do.
Jenna?
It is Councilmember Tanya's birthday today.
Happy birthday to Tanya.
Happy birthday. And then, on a less fun note, I was thinking, I know we have Zoom as an option. We had talked about whether we're going to kind of keep that as an option for meetings. I think with the uptick in COVID and flu and everything, we should continue to do that through the winter, even though historically I know we don't get very many people. So I wanted to put it out there.
That'll be handled in committee.
Very good.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, we'll close that section of the agenda, and I'll open it for public comment for items not listed on the agenda this evening. Anyone, Nathan? Okay, we'll close that section of public comment, and I will entertain. Oh, wait a minute.
We're not singing, are we?
No. Sorry, Tanya. But before we adjourn, because I forgot to do this last month, Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah. I missed Thanksgiving. I was not going to miss Christmas and Hanukkah. Anyway, now, is there a motion for adjournment? Second? Second. We are adjourned. Happy holidays, everyone.
Record